Let's move on to the fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Adrian, who writes, "Hey, John, it has been recently announced that Martin Scorsese had initially thought of making a Joker movie for the last 4 years, not just making, but directing himself, by the way. What do you think would have happened if he did direct it? Thanks." All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, Martin Scorsese continues to talk about Joker and comic book movies and stuff like that. Only I think he's been watching the John Campea Show. Or somebody who's in his ears. I'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, Marty Scorsese just recently revealed that he spent 4 years with this Joker project, thinking that he might direct it. 4 years he's been gestating on this project. I think that's fascinating. That means DC and Warner Brothers were looking at a project like this before Justice League was ever even in theaters. I think the commonly understood narrative has been, as a result of the disaster of Justice League, which I don't think was a disaster, but as a result of the disaster of the Justice League, they just started looking for other things. Marty's been looking at doing this for 4 years. Anyway, so why didn't he do it? Well, partially because it's a comic book movie, but I like his rationale. This is what Martin Scorsese said. He said, "I thought about it a lot over the last 4 years and decided I did not have the time for it. It was personal reasons why I didn't get involved, but I know the script very well. For me, ultimately, I don't know if I make the next step into his character developing into a comic book character. You follow? He develops into an abstraction. It doesn't mean it's bad art. It's just not for me." I want you to remember those words. It's not for me. The superhero films, as I've said, are another art form. They are not easy to make. There's a lot of very talented people doing good work and a lot of young people really, really enjoying them. So I want to get to, there's two separate things to talk about here. Number one is this whole thing about Joker. And I'm not surprised, Rob, to hear Scorsese. First of all, I was surprised to hear that he's been looking at it for like 4 years. For him to say, and I got to tell you, I respect the hell out of this. For him to say, the more I sat with it, and the articles go on to talk about how he loved the Arthur Fleck character, he just didn't want to transform him into the Joker. That's not for him, And he wrestled with it, and he decided, you know what? That's not for me to do, because I'm not comfortable with this transformation into a comic book character. And I'll tell you what, I respect Marty Scorsese because I think he knows we were watching for Arthur transformation into the Joker. And if Marty doesn't feel comfortable with that, then go, you know what? This project isn't the right fit for me. So we'll let somebody else do it to take it in the direction that they want to go. I respect that. I think that's great. Do I salivate a little bit at the idea of what a Joker movie would have looked like as directed by Martin Scorsese? Sure. Yeah, I do. I think everybody would. Here's the other thing. So I like the reasons why he stepped away. I do. I think those are the right reasons to step away. I've been saying, though, regarding his comments about comic book movies, I've always said, you know what? Nobody minds that Marty Scorsese doesn't like comic book movies. And I've said from the beginning, but Marty, all Marty has to say is, you know what? I personally don't like comic book movies. They're not for me. I've been saying that over and over again. All you had to say, Marty, is, you know what? Comic book movies, they're not for me. I don't like them. They're not for me. That's all you had to say. And what's he saying now? Now he's saying, it doesn't mean it's bad art. It's just not for me. But now he's lightened the tone a lot. I think he's heard the criticism. He's lightened the tone a lot. Now he's saying there's a lot of these movies are not easy to make. There's a lot of very talented people doing good work, and a lot of young people really, really enjoy them. So he's kind of staying on his thing as it's a different art form, which is fine. They're not for him, which is all he had to say in the first place. But he's saying there's some really good work being done. I think that's in response to a lot of the criticism, but I think it's a good thing for him to say at that point. But anyway, Rob, we're hearing Marty Scorsese was sitting on maybe directing a Joker film for like 4 years. Are you intrigued by what that movie would have looked like? Not that Todd Phillips didn't do a great job. He obviously did. But are you at least intrigued what a Marty Scorsese directed Joker film could have looked like?
Oh, 100%. But like I think the Joker that we got was pretty similar to what we would have seen if Scorsese directed the movie.
Yeah. Maybe just a different third act.
Maybe a different third act. Certainly it would have had a different editorial style, Thelma Schumacher's longtime editor. And if Robbie Richardson had shot it or something, it would have looked different. If his heart's not in it, and ultimately, I think all of Martin Scorsese's comments have led me to come to the conclusion that he just can't get over that a comic book movie could be something that's just as relevant as, say, based on a book, I Heard You Paint Houses, which is set in the real world, obviously.
Which is what they made the Irishman out of it.
Yeah, I just think there are people that are prejudicial against certain forms of comics, for instance, being one of them. There are people that they won't read certain kind of genre potboiler novels, whether they're John Norman's gore books, if you know what those are, fantasy, sci-fi, S&M novels. People won't read those. And I think he's got a thing about comic book movies, because I think in his mind, when he was a boy reading comic books, he thinks about what they were like when they cost 10 cents and you had the Superman family and everything was hunky-dory, and he missed, because how old is he when The Dark Knight Rises came out or Watchmen came out? He didn't read those. So his vision of what comic books are is just different. It hasn't evolved. And maybe obviously at one point he was going to do Joker, and maybe he thought he was the one to bring that evolution to the form. But when he realized that, a movie like Logan can exist, maybe I can't put my mark on it the way I thought I could, and that's why he wrestled with it.
Do you think, though, even in the midst of all of this discussion and the uproar over his previous comments, although I like his comments recently, over Coppola's comments and all that, do you think there would still be a place, though, I mean, as outrageous as some people pretended to be, if they announced tomorrow that Marty Scorsese was going to direct, I don't know, Mr. Freeze movie or a Lex Luthor movie, despite everything that he said before and all that kind of stuff, do you think the audience would still get pretty revved up about that? Because I personally think, just regardless of anything else that was said, I think that would still get people incredibly excited. Or do you think people are past that?
Oh, dude, 100%. If they announced a Martin Scorsese Lex Luthor film and it's about his rise to power and all that, I'm like, bring it on. Can you imagine a comic book version of The Wolf of Wall Street, but with Lex Luthor's rise to power or something? I mean, come on. That would be awesome. I think people would get behind it. I think it would be amazing. And I think he could bring something really unique. And I think anybody who has, if you don't understand that Scorsese just came from a different generation and that his ideas of what comic book movies are just weren't as evolved, and they can be changed. He's the kind of guy that can embrace a new form. I think it'd be great. And there's no reason. He's one of our masters of filmmaking. He has been for decades. And for him to come do a comic book movie, it'd be great. Just like David Fincher, if they finally convinced him to do a Star Wars movie, I'd be like, bring it on, son. Fincher doing, I don't know why he hasn't done a Star Wars movie. Why didn't he direct Force Awakens? I don't know.
Question here is, guys, what do you think about that? How different do you think this Joker movie would have been, or different at all, if Martin Scorsese had actually directed it? Do you like his reasons for stepping down for it? And do you like the fact that he's really seemed to soften his speech on the whole comic book movie issue and all that kind of stuff? What do you think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.